The Young and the Restless spoilers The Call of Deception, a harrowing orchestration of fear and control in a world where every whispered secret can be a clue, and every unexpected phone call might hide a desperate cry for help. A chilling orchestration of fear is unfolding behind the scenes. Sharon and Phyllis, two women known for their resilience and strength, found themselves trapped in a nightmare that neither of them could have ever imagined. Under the ruthless command of a mysterious kidnapper, they were forced to make a single phone call, a call that would send shockwaves through their family and ignite a series of events none of them could control. The forced assurance, a desperate lie for survival. The phone rang on a quiet afternoon at a time when hope should have been in abundance. Instead, it was a lifeline tethered to terror. Sharon, her voice betraying neither fear nor hesitation, answered the call from their family. "We're okay," she said, a seemingly casual assurance. She claimed that she and Phyllis were in Los Angeles, busy working through some matters and enjoying a carefree day. The words were carefully chosen, rehearsed even, to portray a picture of normalcy, a stark contrast to the grim reality that lay hidden behind closed doors. Phyllis, in her turn, managed to add a note of apology to Summer for missing breakfast, a trivial detail meant to further cement the facade of ordinary life. These messages, though seemingly benign, were nothing more than desperate lies. The true story was far darker. Sharon and Phyllis were not in Los Angeles to resolve work matters or share a light-hearted morning. They were imprisoned by a man whose orders were as clear as they were brutal: lie to your loved ones, or face immediate death. The sinister orders behind the call. Why would anyone call their family to say they are perfectly fine when the truth is a horror show unfolding behind their eyes? The answer lies in the twisted logic of the kidnapper. This individual, whose identity remains shrouded in mystery, demanded that Sharon and Phyllis broadcast a false narrative. His cold ultimatum was simple yet merciless: if you don't assure them that everything is all right, you will not live to see another sunrise. This isn't merely a case of two friends caught in an unexpected situation. It is a carefully orchestrated manipulation designed to feed the kidnappers control over every aspect of their lives. The false call was a psychological weapon, a means of keeping hope alive among their families while, in reality, their captives were shackled by fear and coerced compliance. A family in suspense, the aftermath of the deception. As the call ended, the echoes of the kidnapper's commands resonated far beyond the phone line. Nick, a stalwart figure within the family and someone who has long been a beacon of trust and concern, received Sharon's call. Listening intently, he absorbed every word, a message that should have been a relief but instead filled him with a gnawing sense of unease. Why were they so casually reporting that all was well when the undercurrents of their lives were steeped in terror? At the same time, Summer, whose life had been entwined with the fates of these women, found herself on the receiving end of Phyllis's apology for missing breakfast. Even this small, seemingly insignificant detail added layers of confusion and complexity to an already convoluted situation. The family was left to wonder, who could be so heartless as to force their loved ones into such a dangerous game of deception? A meeting of minds, the seed of suspicion. Recognizing that something was amiss, Nick and Summer convened an urgent meeting. In the sterile confines of a quiet room, free from the distractions of everyday life, they began piecing together the fragments of the unsettling narrative. The gentle reassurance from Sharon and the casual apology from Phyllis felt increasingly like well-rehearsed lines from a script written by someone with malicious intent. Every word was laced with an undercurrent of compulsion, a sign that these messages were not born out of genuine contentment or safety, but of coercion. Their suspicions quickly escalated. If Sharon and Phyllis were under duress, then their words, carefully curated to portray a life untouched by crisis, were nothing more than a veil hiding the truth. The realization struck with bone-deep clarity: someone was forcing them to lie, and the price of non-compliance was death. Nick's bold attempt to unravel the mystery. Determined to rescue his loved ones from the web of lies and terror, Nick conceived a daring plan. He decided to use the phone signal as a lifeline, a tool to break through the oppressive barrier set up by the kidnapper. His goal was to contact the police and trace the location of the signal, a beacon of hope in a seemingly hopeless situation. Every second was precious. Nick dialed the number with trembling determination, each ring a heartbeat that pulsed with urgency. However, before the police could be reached and the digital trail could be followed, an unexpected command was executed. Almost in real time, the phone call abruptly ended. Sharon and Phyllis, under the unyielding orders of their captor, had switched off their phones. The signal was lost, and with it, Nick's precious link to their whereabouts. A grim visual, the knife at the neck, as if the crushing weight of broken promises and disrupted plans wasn't enough. The visual confirmation of their dire situation soon followed. The scene cut sharply to a harrowing tableau, Sharon and Phyllis, faces stricken with terror, their necks pressed against the cold steel of a knife. The kidnapper's presence loomed over them, a silent, deadly force that ensured compliance through fear. Their every move was dictated by the threat of imminent death, their freedom reduced to a cruel illusion. The knife, glinting in the harsh light, was not merely a weapon, it was a symbol of the kidnapper's absolute control. It severed the thin line between survival and death, a daily reminder to Sharon and Phyllis that every lie they uttered, every false assurance they sent out, was not a choice but an order from the man who held their lives in his merciless hands. The unseen puppet master, who was the culprit? Amid the chaos, the question that haunted every mind was, who is this enigmatic figure? The family, already reeling from the shock of the forced communications, now found themselves grappling with the possibility that a malevolent force had infiltrated the sanctuary of their lives. Was it a vengeful enemy from the past? A spurned lover with a vendetta? Or perhaps a criminal mastermind orchestrating a game of terror for reasons that defied explanation? Nick and Summer, with the desperate hope of uncovering the truth, scoured every possible lead. Their investigation was hampered by the very nature of the kidnapper's strategy, total control over communication channels. By compelling Sharon and Phyllis to call and then abruptly cutting the line, he had effectively blinded them from any possibility of raising an alarm. This calculated move left no digital breadcrumbs for law enforcement to follow, a sinister tactic designed to keep the captives isolated and the perpetrator shrouded in mystery. The psychological toll of coerced deception for Sharon and Phyllis, the forced calls were more than a method of communication, they were a daily exercise in psychological torment. Each time they answered the phone, they were forced to put on a mask of normalcy, a mask that concealed the horror of their reality. The act of lying, under threat of death, became an inescapable part of their routine, etching deep scars into their psyches. The strain of maintaining this facade was immense. Every reassuring word, every casual apology, was a reminder of their subjugation. They were prisoners not only of physical restraints but of a mental prison constructed by fear and manipulation. The normalcy they feigned in their voices was a desperate attempt to keep hope alive within their families, even as the hope of rescue dwindled with each passing moment. Family bonds tested to the breaking point, the repercussions of the coerced deception rippled outward, affecting everyone connected to Sharon and Phyllis. Nick and Summer, already burdened with the weight of uncertainty, felt the sting of betrayal, not from their loved ones, but from the unseen force that had compelled them to lie. Their trust was shattered, replaced by a paralyzing suspicion that the comforting words they had heard were nothing more than scripted lines delivered under duress. As the family gathered to discuss their options, every theory seemed to lead back to one grim conclusion: someone was deliberately manipulating their lives, using fear as a tool to enforce compliance and maintain control. The meeting was fraught with tension and emotion, every participant haunted by the image of that cold, unyielding knife, and every unanswered question deepening the chasm of despair between them. The path forward, desperation and determination. Despite the overwhelming odds, Nick refused to give in to despair. His determination to rescue Sharon and Phyllis, and to unmask the puppet master behind this terror, burned like a beacon in the darkness. Every failed attempt to contact the police, every moment of silence from the captive phones, only fueled his resolve to find a way out of the nightmare. Nick's plan to trace the phone signal had been thwarted, but he knew that every setback was merely a challenge to be overcome. The family began exploring alternative methods of communication, gathering every piece of evidence and every shred of information that might lead them to the kidnapper's lair. The stakes were astronomical, and the danger was palpable, but Nick's commitment to saving his loved ones was unwavering. The inevitable confrontation, the tension built steadily as days turned into a tense standoff. Each moment was marked by the constant reminder of the knife's cold edge, the silent threat that loomed over Sharon and Phyllis. The family was now on high alert, balancing on a knife edge between hope and dread. The search for the kidnapper intensified, and every lead was followed with a mix of fear and determination. The question, "Who is this man?" was not just a query, it was a plea for justice, for liberation from a tyrant who had turned ordinary lives into a living hell. Every piece of evidence, every intercepted message, was analyzed with meticulous care, as Nick and Summer worked tirelessly to piece together the puzzle of a mastermind who operated in the shadows. Conclusion: the battle against the unseen enemy in this dark chapter of deceit and terror, the forced calls from Sharon and Phyllis stand as a stark reminder of how easily the bonds of trust can be manipulated by fear. Their voices, laced with the venom of coercion, reached out to their family not as a sign of hope, but as a desperate echo of survival. The kidnapper's ruthless orders, to call and lie, to assure their loved ones that all was well when in reality they were bound by a knife's edge, had plunged their lives into chaos. Yet, even as the family grapples with the overwhelming sense of betrayal and the relentless search for the mysterious figure controlling it all, there remains a spark of defiance. Nick's unwavering determination to trace the signal, to contact the police, and to uncover the identity of the puppet master speaks to the indomitable human spirit. The battle against this unseen enemy is far from over, and every moment brings the family closer to a confrontation that could finally shatter the cycle of fear. Until that day arrives, the echoes of those forced phone calls will serve as a chilling reminder. When ordinary lives are hijacked by terror, even the simplest act of communication can become a lifeline and a weapon. The path forward is fraught with danger, but with unity, perseverance, and a relentless pursuit of the truth, there is hope that the darkness will eventually yield to light, and the silent screams of Sharon and Phyllis will be replaced by the triumphant call of freedom. Phyllis and Sharon sat in a dimly lit, cramped room, their faces etched with fear and exhaustion. Every passing minute reminded them that their survival depended on one brutal, undeniable truth: disobedience was not an option. They knew that if they failed to follow the kidnapper's orders, death would come, not through a dramatic act of violence, but slowly and inevitably, by starvation and dehydration. In that moment, the bleak reality set in: a future filled with promise and hope was out of reach. Their only chance lay in surrendering to the demands of their captor, holding on to the fragile hope that rescue might come from someone out there willing to break through the darkness. The unyielding pressure of coercion, the kidnappers had left no room for negotiation. Every instruction was a lifeline tethered to the promise of survival, however hollow that promise might have been. For Phyllis and Sharon, the decision was simple yet soul-crushing: obey, or face a slow and painful demise. Their daily lives had become a series of coerced actions, each one designed to placate their tormentor and keep them alive long enough to hope for rescue. They forced themselves to wear the masks of normalcy when making phone calls to family members, voices steady and reassuring despite the terror that lay beneath. They repeated scripted lines, fabricating stories of calm and control, knowing full well that any deviation from those lines could result in immediate punishment. A harsh trade-off for a chance at survival in the grim calculus of their situation. There was no brighter future on the horizon. Phyllis and Sharon had long since abandoned dreams of liberation or escape. Every moment spent in captivity was a battle between the instinct to live and the desire to be free. Instead of clinging to a false hope of a happy ending, they chose to obey the orders. Their resignation was not a sign of defeat, it was a calculated decision born from the raw, painful reality of their predicament. By cooperating, they kept alive a small, flickering chance that someone like Nick, or even Chance, might one day break through the suffocating silence and chaos that had swallowed their lives. The relentless pursuit: Nick and Chance on the case miles away. Nick and Chance had ignited a desperate search for answers. With every clue proving to be as elusive as a shadow in the dark, they combed through every scrap of information, every insignificant detail, driven by the stark understanding that even the smallest lead could be the key to unraveling the mystery. The numbers, the coordinates, even the seemingly meaningless signals, they were all taken as vital pieces of the puzzle. For them, every single clue held a weight of number 0, a critical factor in a race against time where uncertainty reigned supreme. In the sterile glow of a makeshift command center, maps were spread out, phones buzzed with incoming alerts, and every moment was a frantic blend of hope and anxiety. The question that haunted their every thought was whether Phyllis and Sharon were truly being held captive, or if the chilling reports were merely part of an elaborate, sinister game. The lack of concrete evidence left them teetering on the edge of paranoia. A reality in which every whisper of a hint could lead to salvation or doom. Their determination was unwavering, yet the grim uncertainty of the situation gnawed at them with every unanswered call and every dead signal. The elusive truth and the writer's mysterious timing amid the chaos, a lingering question circulated through every desperate conversation and every meticulously combed piece of evidence. When would the new writer finally reveal the truth? In a narrative as intricate and unpredictable as the web of lies spun by their captor, the unveiling of the full truth was both anticipated and dreaded. It was as if the story itself had become a living, breathing enigma, each chapter filled with tension, each scene a dance on the edge of revelation and concealment. The new writer, whose identity was as mysterious as the mastermind behind the kidnapping, held the power to unlock the final piece of this puzzle. Their every word was awaited with bated breath, for within those lines lay the potential to either shatter the fragile hope that Nick and Chance clung to, or to ignite a spark of clarity that could guide the rescuers to the captives. Until that day arrived, the family and the investigators were left in a state of perpetual uncertainty, where every minute stretched out like an eternity, and every piece of the puzzle was as critical as life itself. A web of conspiracy and fear. The chilling realization that Phyllis and Sharon's compliance was forced by the threat of starvation and dehydration added a layer of despair that was almost unbearable. Their situation was a vivid illustration of the cruel choices forced upon those trapped in a nightmare: sacrifice one's dignity and hope in exchange for a sliver of survival. It was a testament to the brutal efficiency of the kidnappers, a reminder that the value of human life was being weighed down by the cold calculus of power and control. As Nick and Chance pushed forward with their investigation, the stakes grew higher. Every intercepted phone call, every silent pause in the communication channels, served as a haunting reminder that the captives were not just numbers on a screen, they were human beings fighting for survival in the most harrowing of circumstances. The kidnappers had succeeded in creating an environment where trust was a luxury, and every piece of information had the potential to be a double-edged sword. The critical role of every clue in their relentless pursuit, Nick and Chance scrutinized every possible lead. The family meeting was fraught with tension as they deliberated over the significance of every intercepted signal, every coded message that could either be a beacon of hope or a trap set by their captors. The clues were painstakingly analyzed, not just for what they revealed, but for what they might conceal. Each number, each timestamp, every erratic phone signal was catalogued and cross-referenced, as if the solution lay hidden in the minutiae of data that most would consider inconsequential. The investigators were driven by the knowledge that even the smallest clue could be the turning point, a signal strong enough to guide law enforcement to the captive's location. Their determination was tempered only by the reality that time was slipping away, and with every passing moment, the possibility that Phyllis and Sharon might never be rescued grew more real. A flicker of hope amidst the darkness yet, despite the overwhelming odds and the suffocating atmosphere of dread, a flicker of hope remained. The very act of search and investigation was a defiant declaration against the forces of despair. Nick and Chance, along with everyone who cared for Phyllis and Sharon, were committed to unearthing the truth, no matter how deep it was buried under layers of coercion and fear. Their resilience was a silent promise that the captives' voices, though forced to echo false assurances, would not be forgotten, and that every piece of evidence would eventually lead to their liberation. The unanswered questions and the unfolding drama as the investigation continued, the uncertainty over whether Phyllis and Sharon were indeed kidnapped, or if they were part of a more elaborate scheme, remained a dark cloud over the entire operation. Every theory, every hypothesis was weighed against the grim reality of their situation. The mystery was compounded by the chilling reminder that their compliance was not born out of resignation alone, but out of a desperate desire to survive the insurmo.